I want to get to another story that I am super interested in, and I want your take on it to explain. So, Prime Minister Ishiba in Japan has resigned. I'm fascinated by this because we don't have presidents that just resign. Like the president will stay there, regardless of what the president does. The president can have a 2% approval rating, and he will stay his entire term. But this is Japanese Ishiba. He announced his
And the
resignation.
thoughts of the people and the thoughts of the party.
Let me see. It's 43 seconds, that one.
It's about how we think about the gap between the two. We always need to think about this. And I will not deny that there were various views on this. However, if the government is not functioning, this is not something that should happen for the benefit of the people, and that's why I decided to do this.
That is impressive. I mean, that is so anti-American. Like, we don't do that. Look, if you're watching this from another country, let's say Japan or somewhere like that, and your governments actually do say, okay, this government isn't working, we're going to call it quits, this is for the best of the nation, etc. Any American watching that is going to be like, wow, people do that? We just don't do that. That is so beyond the pale. He is effectively saying, look, this government is dysfunctional. Because it's dysfunctional, I'm going to call it quits.
Look, this is Japan, and this is actually normal for Japan. Japanese prime minister, they don't stay in office for long. The longest recent Japanese prime minister that stayed in office, it's Abe, Shinzo Abe, the guy who got assassinated.
Yeah.
So like the thing is, I don't think Ishiba wants that job right now because he's under tremendous pressure by the Trump administration. They're really Trump is really putting a lot of pressure on the Japanese economy. First the auto tariff, then the steel tariff, and forcing Japan to at least promise invest $500 billion inside U.S. And there's a lot of I don't think Ishiba wants to be in that job because he has to deal with Trump essentially, and for Japan this is an existential problem because unlike China has a huge domestic market. Japan's economy absolutely depend on export and particularly export to United States, and when especially that the auto tariff. That hits Japan really hard. So they are, they're struggling. Japan is struggling. Japan, the economy hasn't been doing well. It's good for traveler because yen has depreciated a lot. Now Japan is actually relatively cheap to travel to now, but it's not good for the Japanese citizens and the Japanese economy. So I mean, I can understand why he want to quit. Like why am I putting myself in this position? It's not like the U.S. I think is also like a ego thing. No American president wants to be forced out. Even if they're under impeachment, they will fight till the end, right? And it's un-American. It's un-American to give up.
It's un-American. It's un-American. Maybe that's what it is. It's the American thing to me, where I'm like, what? You're giving up power? Who gives up power? Like, even if you're, hated, even if people are they threw a shoe at George Bush in Iraq. George Bush didn't give up power. He was screwing up Iraq big time. He didn't give up power. Donald Trump put it this way, before Trump ends this term, that's assuming he ends this term. People are saying he's ill, he's sick, he's not going to make it through the term. Maybe not. He will cling to this administration like grim death. They impeached Trump twice. They impeached him twice. And he still wasn't going anywhere. So that's what I mean. Like, I just assume that it's the ego thing for all world leaders who takes positions of power. And maybe you're right. Maybe his thing is like, dude, why am I putting up with this?
And also, we don't know if he did it voluntarily. He could be forced out. I mean, a lot of Japanese prime ministers did. Like, for example, the former Japanese prime minister Hatoyama, who was present during China's victory parade, celebrating victory over Japan Day. He was there. He was apologizing.
Wait, you mean an 80th anniversary?
Yes, that was former Japanese
Really?
prime minister. Yes, but that's why during his tenure as Japanese prime minister, China Japan tie actually warmed up. Well, guess what? He'll stay as a prime minister for less than a year, from 2009 to 2010. There's a lot of because he is the type of Japanese prime minister who advocate to improve ties with China and rely less on United States. And that's a no-no. Like
Right.
Japan is still an occupied country. People tend
Yes.
to forget. U.S. still station troops in Japan. U.S. still have a lot of say in internal Japanese politics. They will never allow an independent like Japanese foreign policy, and that's like outside of American control. So any Japanese politician who advocate reconciliation with China and chart a more independent foreign policy, independent of United States, they're gonna get slapped down really quick. So yeah, so you have to think that's also a factor. U.S. do have a lot of influence in the Japanese politics.
One of the things they mentioned were the tariffs. So is that also one of the reasons that Japan made this humiliating trade deal with the United States? The tariffs are biting into Japan. Now, to be fair to Japan, they said, well, look, we never said we were going to invest all of this, like 500 billion or whatever that number is. We never said that. But either way, right, it looks bad from the headline standpoint. Is it just the Japanese population also has feelings about what seems to be humiliation by a U.S. government?
Well, the Japan has been like they have been ritually humiliated for the last 80 years. I mean, it's I don't think it's anything new for the Japanese public at this point. They're probably numb to it. But Korea is a case to watch, because they are that spectacle of parading Korean engineers who are, these are white collar worker, respected. They're getting chained up like criminals, be marching into, ICE prison. That is not gonna go down well in South Korea at all. I mean, and this is a country that United States trying to get help with the U.S. its own Navy buildup. They got South Korea to invest in the United States naval shipyard, because they realize U.S. doesn't have the Navy build out capability that match that of China. So they're trying to get the Korean shipbuilders to help to invest in the U.S. shipyard. Again, they're gonna go through the same thing. Put Korean engineers on the ground to help set up the plan to do the tech transfer. Now they look at what happened. What just happened with their fellow Korean engineers being dragged off in chains. They're probably going to have second thoughts about that. So yeah, I mean, this is purely a political stunt for U.S. politicians to appeal to their own voters. Like, oh, we're acting tough on immigration, right? I mean, but man, they're really sabotaging their own foreign policy right now.
Right here. Here it is. Just so the audience can know what we're talking about. They put these people in hand and feet chains and waist chains as if they were criminals. These people were here legally, just so we're very clear. And they were leading them away, engineers, put them on a bus.
And
these people did nothing
They
wrong.
were part of the Korean investment to build up battery plant in United States. So, I mean, forget about tech transfer at this point. They are brought in to get the plan running so they can employ more American workers, next year when it opens. But good luck with that. Yeah, this is
I mean, how could Asians feel safe here? I mean, and I mean that, like, if you look at the majority of, let's say, scientific occupations, or let's say scientific endeavors, China has the overwhelming majority of those things in regards to its leadership. The U.S., I think, has like 5. I mean, it's like an Australian study or something to that effect. You need Asians coming into the country, be it from China, South Korea, et cetera, and they're seeing images like that of innocent people of Asian descent being carted away in chains for doing nothing. How?
Well,
I mean,
Jamar,
that can't be viewed.
That's why there's an exodus of Chinese scientists from the United States right now. I mean, the trickle has turned into a flood, because Trump has, since the first Trump administration, when he launched so-called China initiative by FBI to supposedly crack down on Chinese spying in the country, but they all really went after Chinese researchers, Chinese scientists working in U.S. universities. So now a lot of them are going back because also for economic reasons, because before they came to the United States, because U.S. offer higher compensation and better working environment. Now Chinese university actually pay better now. Actually, the pay compensation in China is actually pretty good. I mean, in terms of power purchase parity, they could have much better standard of living in China, of working the same jobs, and they don't have to put up with all these bullshit from the FBI. So now this is a massive reverse brain drain happening in United States. And this is a country that, they're putting all their eggs in one basket, in the AI basket, to hope to beat China. But the 50% of the world's top AI talent graduate from the Chinese universities. And many of them do come to United States after they graduate from university from China to either pursue graduate degree or work in Silicon Valley and stuff. And Trump is trying to cut off that pipeline, and good luck trying to win the AI race against China, because like the joke often is like the AI race between United States and China is the Chinese in US versus the Chinese in China. But now it's just but now the Chinese are going back. So good luck.
There also has to be this issue of self-pride too, right? Like, it's one thing when, how can I say this? Soft power, I'll use it in those terms, where a country, I'll use Russia as an example. How many Russians say that after the special military operation, and they saw the way that Russia was able to effectively dominate over all of these Western nations, they saw the standard of living in Russia increase. They saw the standard of living in all of these other countries in Europe decrease. Russia's economy moved to like number 4, something like that. And they looked at themselves differently when that happened, effectively saying all of this stuff that they were putting out against us was just false. Reality has asserted itself. I would imagine that China thinks the same.
Yeah, Jamar, recently I put up a compilation of Chinese military parade from 1949 to 2025, the most recent one. I just uploaded to my channel, and I received so many comments from Chinese all over the world thanking me for putting up the compilation and telling me how proud they felt watching that 2025 parade. And they felt the pride of being Chinese. I mean, yes, you are absolutely right. I mean, now China's rise cannot be denied, and that is having an effect. That also draw a lot of people to come back to the motherland. People ask me, Carl, but why do you live in Bali? Well, Bali has the best surfing. But if China offer me citizenship, shit, man, I'll give up my U.S. passport in a heartbeat. So I no longer have to pay taxes to Uncle Sam. Because even though I live in Bali, I still have to freaking pay taxes to the Uncle Sam to support their endless wars.
Thing. So because like places like Austria, places like that have this kind of tax exchange.
I still have to pay, man. You always have to pay taxes, sir.
Well, you do, but sometimes you can
set the taxes. Can't get out. That's why all these wealthies they're all getting like UAE passport, or Steven Seagal, he got Russian passport, so he doesn't have to pay Uncle Sam taxes.
Did you see that interview? They asked him like, "Why are you here?" He says, "I'm Russian," and walks away.
Yeah. So wow. if President Xi Jinping, if you're watching this video, please help our brother out.
Oh, that is too funny. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I mean, yeah, I guess me gallivanting around the globe, looking at places, I guess you get the chance to say, okay, where do you want to live? I don't know yet. I guess I haven't made a choice. I have to settle down somewhere. This body is going to fail at some point. I can't just keep going from place to place. So far, I like Jakarta, though. They're so different. Like Jakarta, Malaysia, Vietnam and Indonesia have similarities. Malaysia seems very different. Like it feels very different. Not to mention, I'm putting on weight in Malaysia in a way that I haven't necessarily done here.
What do you mean? What do you mean? How different? What do you feel was different?
Like, for example, in Malaysia feels more westernized.
It is. It is. It is. It's because it was a British colony, right? And even though Indonesia was a Dutch colony for 300 years, but the Dutch, they just want to extract wealth from the country. They didn't want bother to even like teach the Dutch language to the locals, right? They actually they didn't want the locals to integrate into the Dutch culture because they prefer to keep the locals apart, and they didn't really feel like educating the locals in any case. At least a lot of the Malaysians, they grew up with like kind of the British English education, etc.
Right.
But the Dutch in Indonesia, they just it's all about wealth extraction for them, right? I mean, it's like, so they left very little trace in Indonesia. I think that's what you saw. I mean,
that might be what it is.
Yeah, even though Indonesia and Malaysia were both colonized and by different countries, but I think there was definitely the British left more of footprint in Malaysia, even more so in Singapore. If you went to Singapore, that's definitely even more. You'll feel more even more Western. But
It's
Indonesia.
I mean, you can get away with English in Malaysia.
Yep.
In a way that you can't here.
Yeah. Well, you can get away with English where I live in Bali, because Bali is a tourist island, so a lot of people do speak English in Bali. But in Jakarta, like because everybody just speak Bahasa.
Yeah. In Malaysia, they're more portly, they're larger. I assume that's because of fast food in a way that I haven't necessarily seen here. Yeah. What? You're laughing. Everybody laughs when I say
Malaysia
that, but it's
is
true.
Also,
like the people are larger.
It's true. Like it is true, because I actually saw like a chart. Somebody posted a chart of how all the Southeast Asians. Malaysia is actually the biggest. But it could Malaysia and Philippines. It could be because of Western food, right? There's a Western style fast food, and Malaysia is also wealthier. They're wealthier than Indonesia.
I see.
And like they have more. They have better infrastructure in Malaysia, and there's also a large percentage-wise. There's a larger Chinese population in Malaysia. There's a lot of visible Chinese influence in Malaysia as well. So
yeah, it's different. Malaysia felt easier to kind of just slide into. But again, the weight thing is real. Like, I put on so much weight. I know this sounds weird, but it's like across the street, Taco Bell, down the street, McDonald's, Burger King, a little bit ways, and they're everywhere.
I'm telling you, man, it's because of Western food. It's Western food.
I swear to God, it is. Here it's like rice, chicken. It's like your very basic staples, right?
Try iga soup. I forgot to mention iga. That's soup? How iga, IGA. Iga is an Indonesian for ribs or for beef ribs, and it's pretty good. They're either get the ribs by itself or rib soup. It's really good. It's pretty good, and it's not. And you can have it like non-spicy, so it's
I want the spice. I like the spice.
Oh, you want spice? You'll be fine in Indonesia. Everything is spicy here.
Yeah, I like the spices. There's a Chinese restaurant downstairs. I have no idea what they're putting. Like, I don't even. Okay, that's some chicken dish. I'll take it. Let's just try it. One last question before I can let you go. Taiwan. If the U.S. is indeed going with the strategy of pulling back, what is Taiwan thinking at this point? I mean, are they even included in that? I mean, Hegseth early on went on this drunken rant about how we're willing to fight China for Taiwan. Okay, dude, you just lost in Ukraine for Ukraine. Are you really talking about doing this? And now they're putting this kind of military assessment on his desk of trying to pull back. What does this mean for Taiwan and the integration between Taiwan and China?
There's actually a big political land shift in Taiwan that you might not never heard of because Western media don't report on such things. The ruling party, DPP, which is closely aligned with Washington, which also has an independence platform, they are losing popularity on Taiwan. I mean, they never had overwhelming majority, right? The guy who won Taiwan presidency, he won with like 40% of the votes. When 60% of the voters voted for the opposition party, but the opposition was split between two candidates, so that's why he won. But right now, he's even losing more popular supports, and because people are finally waking up to the fact that DPP is all talk. They talk about they always trying to stir up the cross-strait tensions to shore up their vote, scaremongering like what they do in the United States to win election, but they actually haven't actually done anything for the Taiwan economy. Taiwan economy faced the same problem as the economy in the West. It's suffering under the neoliberal policies, and which means the hollowing out of industries. And now the last remaining pillar of Taiwan's economy is TSMC, the Taiwan semiconductors. Right. And Trump just forced TSMC to, Trump and Biden trying to get them to set up shop in Arizona to do knowledge transfer to Intel. Remember, I always call it they're going to have to nationalize Intel because Intel is hopeless. So they just bought 10% of the Intel stock. And so they're trying to force TSMC to do knowledge transfer to Intel, try to save Intel, right? And to have TSMC babysit Intel. And TSMC, they're doing the same thing that like the Koreans were doing. They're bringing Taiwan engineers trying to help to set up their plant in Arizona. And guess what? They're getting a lot of complaints in Arizona say, oh, they're bringing all these foreigners to come to work. And yeah, I mean, look at that South Korea, all these Taiwan engineers looking at the South Korean engineer being led away in chains. I mean, I think, they can just sign up with they can get a better compensation package if you go to mainland China. There's no barriers for Taiwanese engineers. Just go, because right now the semiconductor industry is booming in China right now, and they're offering higher pay bonuses to the Taiwanese semiconductor engineers to come over, and many of them do. And the DPP government is trying to crack down on that. But you're not going to crack down on human nature. For them, it's the same language, same culture, and better pay. Why not? and that's the kind of the shift that's happening in Taiwan. That more and more people waking up to the development across the Taiwan Strait. One of the biggest Taiwanese social media influencer, this guy called Jim Boss, is like this buff guy with tattoos all over. He used to be the most pro-independent voice on Taiwan. He used to say like, oh man, like all these, I will tell you all these, you communist bastards, you can come over to Taiwan and see, like right now, our youth on Taiwan, we already have nothing. We can't afford the houses. Our houses are too expensive. We don't have much job prospect. So only thing we have left is our freedom of speech, because we can still talk shit online. So if you try to come over here and take away our freedom, we're going to fight you. We're going to fight you. We got guns. And then, but more what, by the way, when that first video came out, I'm like, oh, this guy is on the verge. This guy is so close. This guy is so close. And he just turned. He just recently, he just completely turned. He traveled he did a whole tour of mainland China. Now he's saying, we're all brothers. Like there's no reason we should fight. So there's a huge generation shift on Taiwan itself. More and more people realizing all these politicians, they're just pulling wool over their eyes the whole time while not actually investing and developing the Taiwan economy. And their politicians are being like lapdogs of the United States, always say yes. They left the ban on the American beef and et cetera, et cetera. So people are not happy. And so I'm pretty optimistic about Taiwan if U.S. influence pulls out.
Carl, that is the funniest thing in the world is that this guy's on the edge. What's funny, right? When you're watching a YouTube channel, like it's a world, right? And especially if it's a person and the person is being straight with you. And if he's saying stuff like, we don't have jobs, we don't have anything here, we don't have homes, we don't have anything, just our voice. And it's like, dude, but don't you want other things? And maybe at some point that guy's going to realize that he wants other things. Maybe the way it's coming from his front is the thing that's causing, just like he's on the edge, he's on the edge, he's gonna flip. Well, yeah. So I guess your point is, organically, Taiwan is going to move closer to China. It's inevitable on some level, and it's not necessarily going to have to be some kind of military campaign where China takes Taiwan. It's just going to be a political reality. Is that is that a legit prediction? Fair enough. Carl, you're fantastic, man. I'm sorry, the prayers are in the background. They've just started. They start around this time. It's going to go for a little bit, but it'll phase out. Carl Jha, host of Silk and Steel podcast focused on China and surrounding region and their history, culture, and politics. You can follow Carl on Twitter at Carl Jha. You can follow his podcast at Steel Silk N, letter N. And you can support the podcast on patreon.com/silk and steel. Check Carl out. Carl is fantastic. This is just a droplet of what Carl offers. Check out his Patreon, check out his podcast, all of those things. Carl, thank you for this, man. You be safe, okay?
Thank you. Anytime, Jamar.
Have a good one, man. All right. Carl is fantastic.